Hey guys, so today I want to do a review for you. Today I'm going to be reviewing the Percy Jackson series by Rick Riordan. I just got through reading all of these and I wanted to talk about what I thought about them. I will say that the first part of this video will be spoiler free, so if you have not read these books, feel free to continue watching. Eventually I will go into more detailed thoughts about each of the books. Brief detailed thoughts, mind you, since there are 5 books, but they may be a little more spoilery, but I will warn you before I get to that part of the video. For right now, it will stay spoiler free. For those of you who don't know what this series is about, it is about obviously a kid named Percy Jackson. In the first book, he is a 12-year-old kid with dyslexia and ADHD, and he's been kicked out of every school he's ever been to for various reasons, and some he can't really even explain. Through a sudden course of events that I won't go into detail with, he ends up at a place called Camp Half-Blood, where he finds out that Greek gods and Greek mythology is all real, and he finds out that all of the kids at the Camp Half-Blood are half mortal, half god, where the Greek gods have gone and had children with mortals like they have in previous myths. So he has to find out who his father is, and a whole bunch of different events happen from there. The books in the series are The Lightning Thief, The Sea of Monsters, The Titan's Curse, The Battle of the Labyrinth, and The Last Olympian. This is a middle grade fantasy series, and this is something that a lot of people read whenever we were, at least for my age group, in middle school and high school, and I just never read them until now. And I have to say, even though it's intended for a younger audience, I still found them extremely enjoyable. I thought Percy was a hilarious narrator. Rick Riordan's writing is quite funny. Even in a serious situation, he can find a way to make you laugh. I found myself laughing out loud at times, and I don't do that very often in a book. I thought the storyline was great, the characters were great. I really enjoyed this series. I gave each book a 5 out of 5 stars, and even if you're older like me, I'm 22, and you haven't read this series yet, I highly recommend giving it a go, because even though it's intended for a younger audience, I still really enjoyed it, and a lot of the time it didn't really feel like it was for a younger audience. There were times, especially in the first book, where it did, just because the characters are younger, but as they get older, it feels more like a young adult book. And now I'm going to get into the spoilery section, so if you have not read the books, I would suggest stopping, or if you've read up to a certain point, I am going to talk about them in order, so you can keep watching if you've read some of them. So let's start with The Lightning Thief. I thought this was an excellent first book in the series. Percy is 12 in this book, and you find out the entire plot in this one, and he goes on quite an epic quest, and I thought this was a great first book. The only thing that I will say about this one is, since the characters are about 12 here, there were times where it felt like a middle grade series just because they were making really bad decisions that got them in a lot of trouble. If they had been a little bit smarter, they probably would have done better. But the stories also wouldn't have been as interesting if that hadn't have happened. And I will say that I feel like as the books went on, their decisions got better just because of this book. They found out, oh hey, we need to be smarter so that we don't run into so many monsters. I liked how this book introduced us to more of the well-known monsters, and I think that's probably because for people who may not be as familiar with Greek mythology, I actually know some about Greek mythology because I studied at some in elementary school. So this whole series really kind of just reminded me of things I'd learned already, and I learned a lot of other new things as well, which was really cool. I'd kind of already figured out that Percy's father was Poseidon just because of his logo, because there's a trident, so I thought that was kind of obvious, especially whenever he made the water splash on Clarice in the bathroom his first day at camp. I was like, he's the son of Poseidon, come on guys. And I almost expected it to take longer for that to come about in the book, but then he found out pretty quickly, so I was kind of glad about that because I thought it was pretty obvious. But I think as far as the quests go, my favorite quest happened in this book, just because it was so, they ended up in so many different places. I thought that was kind of cool. Plus you get to meet so many more gods, I feel like, in this book, like Ares, Hades, and I thought the underworld was really interesting, how they went into recording the studio thing and then they went down, and I just thought that that whole time in the book was really, really interesting. As far as ranking the books, ranking it 1 through 5, this is probably my second favorite, just because I thought it was a great first book in the series, and I really liked how the story developed. This one, like I said, all of these got a 5 out of 5 stars. Next is The Sea of Monsters. This is the shortest book, and this is probably my least favorite. It still got a 5 out of 5 stars. I still really enjoyed it. It's probably my least favorite though, just because the least amount of things happen in this book, and I think that's just because it's shortest. But we get to meet Tyson in this book, and I love Tyson. He's so adorable. And it's really important because we find out about the Princess Andromeda and kind of get a glimpse at what Luke's up to at the time. The island where Cersei turned Percy into a guinea pig, that was insane. I didn't see that coming at all. Well, obviously when they got there, I knew that something was gonna happen to them, but it didn't occur to me that the guinea pigs were men. And then whenever Annabeth figures out how to save him, and then those other guinea pigs in the cage with Percy become pirates, that was probably one of my favorite scenes in this book, just because I thought that was hilarious. But I will say that the biggest cliffhanger happened at the end of this book when Talia comes back to life. What? I didn't see that coming at all. I mean, I'm glad it happened because Talia ends up becoming one of my favorite characters, but I didn't see it coming. Maybe it was obvious and I just missed it, because that happens sometimes, especially because I was reading these books really late at night for the most part, but I didn't see that coming, so I will give this book that for biggest cliffhanger in the series. Overall, I still really enjoyed this book. I think I finished this book in about a day. It was since it was the shortest, and yeah. So on to The Titan's Curse. This was probably my third favorite. A lot of people say this is their favorite, but the only reason it wasn't my favorite is because I really missed Annabeth. I mean, I get why she had to be kidnapped for the sake of the plot, but I still really missed her character, and it just kind of took away from the story to me not having her in there. But then we also get to really discover the character of Talia and Zoey, and there's so many other new characters in this book that were just really awesome. Nico and Bianca come about in this book, and just a lot of important things happen in this book that really propelled the story forward. I really was sad when Bianca died. Part of me was kind of hoping that she would come back, because that kind of seems to happen in these books a lot, is characters don't actually really die when you think they do. But unfortunately it had to happen for the sake of the plot, for the sake of Nico's storyline. And I just don't really like Bianca that much, to be completely honest. I mean, I get that she wanted to become a hunter or whatever, and that's fine, but she just made a snap decision. She didn't even talk to her little brother about it, who she's taken care of her whole life, and if she was going to do something like that, she should have waited until maybe Nico was a little older, or made sure he was comfortable with it, because that should have been a joint decision, I think, just because she has taken care of him so long, and to him, she was a lot like a mother figure, and I just thought that it was really sucky that she just did that just all of a sudden without even really learning anything about Camp Half-Blood. She was like, oh yeah, I'll just go be in this immortal hunting group, it'll be fine. No wonder Nico went crazy after you died. But the part where Zoey died, I think that was the first time that, I think it was the first and only time that I cried in these books. And I don't really mean like I cried, it was more like I teared up, but still, I cried a little bit. Because even though I didn't like her character at first, she really grew on me, and she turned out to be pretty much a total badass, and I was really sad that she had to die. But I kind of had a feeling that when the prophecy said 2 people in the group would die, it wouldn't be any of the main characters. But it is kind of ironic that out of all the people that could have died, it was the 2 people who were supposed to be immortal. If Annabeth had been in this book more, I think it probably would have been at least my second favorite, but that was really the only thing that put it behind the Lightning Thief for me. And then we have the Battle of the Labyrinth. This one was probably my 4th favorite. Not that it was bad, because it was really, really good, but I just liked the other ones more. The Labyrinth was really confusing. Like, that would have been a terrifying thing to go through. And I felt really kind of bad for Annabeth in a way, just because she was leading it. You could tell she was scared. Also, like, you go girl, you get that hard quest and you rock it. I was glad that we had all 4 of the main characters working together in this book though. Percy, Annabeth, Tyson, and Grover. That made me really happy in this book, especially since we had such a lack of Annabeth and Tyson in book 3. And the whole thing about Kronos using Luke's body, like, that was just really creepy. That whole scene was just really weird. I love how after Daedalus died, or when he knew that he was going to die, he gave Annabeth his laptop. I thought that was really awesome, and that way she could use some of his ideas since she was an aspiring architect. I thought that was really cool of him. Mrs. O'Leary, we meet Mrs. O'Leary in this book, and she was an awesome character, and I love her so much. And I'm really glad that when he knew he was gonna die, he gave her to Percy. It made me sad, kind of, just because he ended up being a pretty cool character, but I knew Quintus was not who he said he was, but I didn't expect him to be Daedalus. That was off-putting for me. I didn't see that coming at all. But I really enjoyed this book, even though it was my 4th favorite. It was kind of hard to rank these, but I really, really enjoyed this book. And the last book is The Last Olympian, and I think this was my favorite of the series just because I think it wrapped things up so well. I didn't think that Selena was going to be the spy. I thought it was going to be somebody else, but it kind of makes sense that she was the spy. I was really sad when Beckendorf died. I was hoping that they would find some way to save him, and it just didn't happen. It couldn't happen for the sake of the story. But the battle scenes were really cool, and just everybody was like a total badass. And Clarice actually ended up impressing me in this book, because usually I hated her character, and she actually ended up impressing me in this book. And I already shipped Percy and Annabeth kind of hard, but especially after this book, I was like, yes, 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 yes. Everything worked out really well in the end. I thought they were able to beat the Titans. The gods actually kind of like Percy now for the most part. Like being a very loose term. And Luke's backstory was just really, really sad. Like the scenes with his mom was just really sad. And I was really worried about Rachel Elizabeth Adair. I haven't even talked about her. She's cool. But I just could not figure out what her role was. And then when they said that she was seeing visions and stuff, I was like, please don't tell me she's going to become the Oracle. I don't really know how I feel about that because she's immortal, so I don't really know. It's weird that that worked the way it was just because she's immortal. I don't know. I feel like if somebody was going to become the Oracle, it would be better if they were at least a half-blood, but I guess in the past it was always a mortal who became the Oracle. I don't know, but I thought that that was kind of weird. But I guess it makes sense since she saw through the mist so well. I don't know. But this was my favorite book just because I thought the battle scenes were really cool. I loved how everybody came together in the end, including the gods, and the way that Kronos ended up dying was just so many feels. So that's it for this video. I think I've rambled on long enough. Let me know down in the comments what your opinions are about this series, and I will see you guys next time with another video. Bye.